Well, thank you so much for coming, and I very much appreciate this. My name is Dick Whitney. I work at Carl Zeiss Vision, formerly American Optical. I work in town, and I'm just thrilled at this event today. I was contacted last spring by the IEEE, or last winter almost it seems, with regard to honoring the achievements of Elias Snitzer and colleagues at American Optical between the periods of 1961 and 64. I'll shortly introduce the IEEE members. Aside from this event being sponsored by the Optical Heritage Museum and the IEEE, we have financial sponsors that I'm thrilled with. Honky Sauce Wolf, John Kingston Jr. I don't know if he's here, but they were a contributor. My company, Zeiss, Carl Zeiss Vision. As I said, my office is in Main Street, Southbridge. SCHOTT Glass here, Thea Maku, I arranged through, I appreciate it, and the officials are here. J.I. Morris Company, Peter Durlam. The Southbridge Hotel, thank you again for this sponsorship. It really means a lot, and this is a very good, wonderful thing to honor. So I'd like to introduce Gordon Day, who's president of the IEEE, and I'll let him explain what IEEE is and what this is all about in better terms than I could ever do. So Gordon.
Well, thank you, Dick, and on behalf of the IEEE Board of Directors and my colleagues, I bring you greetings and thanks for being here. And I also want to express our thanks to the list of sponsors that Dick mentioned to you a few moments ago. So we're here to recognize the really seminal work of Elias Snitzer and his colleagues on optical fiber and amplifiers. And of course, it's sad that we lost Eli earlier this year, but we're delighted to have a number of members of his family with us today. We're also very pleased that the local community could be here to help us with this event, work that took place just across the street from us. And we have several other IEEE representatives here, including Jim Coleman, who's a professor of electrical engineering at the University of Illinois and a former president of the IEEE Photonics Society, which is one of the sponsors, and Rich Linke, who is the current executive director of the IEEE Photonics Society. I'll say more later this afternoon about IEEE and the IEEE Milestone program when we convene over at the hotel, but for now let me just say that IEEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, is the largest and the most global of the technical professional societies. We have more than 400,000 members in over 160 countries around the world. We're a major publisher of technical literature. We have a catalog of something like 150 journals and magazines. We sponsor or co-sponsor about 1,300 technical conferences in a year. We support education all the way from early elementary to and through university education, all the way through continuing education to late career folks. And we're an international voice for technology and what technologists do. And it's a part of that last function that we recognize really important technical achievements that occur around the world and try to locate something near where they took place. This is the 129th IEEE milestone to be dedicated over the last 30 years or so. It's in fact the 13th this year. In December, I'll be dedicating the 14th, which will be in Uruguay. In fact, advanced technology is created all around the world, and our milestones reflect that. This milestone takes its place among the work of people like Benjamin Franklin, James Clerk Maxwell, among achievements like the invention of the battery, Marconi's work on wireless, the first demonstration of superconductivity, the invention of the transistor, various achievements in computers, in television, in radio, and on and on. The most relevant of those, one of the most recent of those is flash memory, which I'll bet a few of you have a flash drive in your pocket right now. And perhaps most relevantly, a couple years ago, this same trio, the three of us, dedicated one in California for the demonstration of the first laser. And earlier this year, the three of us again dedicated one for the first low-loss optical fiber in Corning, New York. Those, of course, are very closely related to the work of Eli and his colleagues. So Eli's work and his colleagues really clearly fits into this list of milestones. And as you'll hear in a few more minutes in more detail this afternoon, his achievements really were seminal. And the technologies that were demonstrated across the street ultimately changed the world as we know it. So I'm really delighted to be here, to be a part of this celebration. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague and friend, Professor Jim Coleman, who will add a few words to this. Jim? I think I need to leave some things here.
So good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I've developed a little cold in the last day or so, and it's I'm not at my 100% professor voice for yelling at students. As Gordon mentioned, the IEEE is made up of professional societies, and one of them is the IEEE Photonics Society. And on behalf of their 7,000 members, I'm here to greet you and thank you for coming to help us participate in this marvelous dedication. About 50 years ago, when Elias Snitzer was beginning to do his groundbreaking work in quantum electronics across the street, our society was formed to support the professionals in quantum electronics. And you may not know what quantum electronics is, so I'll translate. That's lasers, detectors, fiber optics, and fiber optic communications. We're the folks who bring you CDs, DVDs, and the internet. Supporting those professionals now, this work has grown. We publish papers, and I did a search this morning, and if you just look up fiber lasers and fiber amplifiers, all of which originates here, you'll get 500,000 hits. We have major conferences like the Optical Fiber Communications Conference that routinely has 40 to 50,000 attendees. And of course, there's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and Jeff will be able to give you better quantitative information about that. I've just put him on the spot, so I hope he has that. So I just want to say on behalf of our society, again, welcome. We're very proud of Eli and the work that was done here, and we sponsored this plaque with that in mind and are delighted to be here to do the dedication. Now, Dick?
Next, I'd like to introduce Senator Moore, who will say a few words, and we have a few officials that I'm pleased could make it. So we'll start with Senator Moore.
Thank you very much, Dick. Thank you. First of all, I want to welcome the Snitzer family and also the three amigos of the IEEE who've been touring the world, I guess, to recognize the profession and the advances in it to the eye of the Commonwealth, the town of Southbridge, which is part of my senatorial district. This is really, I think, an important step, and it's a plaque. And people get plaques all the time, but it recognizes a very historic achievement that has gone on to revolutionize a good part of the world in many of the areas with laser and fiber optic technology. And I think it's important to have a recognition of this sort in order to let the people of Southbridge and the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts understand some of the pioneering work in the field that occurred here as part of the AO operation. It's, I think, important also that one of the visions that Dick Whitney and others have had is to really develop the Optical Heritage Museum and make it a destination for folks that want to learn more about this field of science and engineering, and one that we hope, because we do need them, that will encourage and perhaps provide inspiration to young people today here in Southbridge, or those that might visit, to go into this field and to continue to grow, because it is a dynamic field that has started, I think, as was mentioned, Ben Franklin was one of the early pioneers in the optical field, but now getting into fiber optics, it's really taken it to a whole new dimension. And in just relatively, you figure that Eli was doing his work in 1961, not that far past in our history, and that so much has developed around the country and around the world in that field, partly because of the pioneering work that he and others who worked with him were able to achieve. So I congratulate the IEEE for this educational effort of designating these plaques for those who were the pioneers in the field, to really remind us that people who came before planted an important foundation and launched a heritage that we are still benefiting from in healthcare and in so many other areas today. So I congratulate you. I'm happy to be part of it, and certainly provide endorsement from the Senate of Massachusetts for this kind of activity, and to support the Optical Heritage Museum as well. Thank you.
I'm told I should be talking louder, so I'd like to introduce Representative Peter Durant.
Thank you, everybody. You know, as I started to do a little bit of research on Mr. Snitzer, I started thinking about the heritage of our towns, and how every town around here and in Massachusetts has people who are renowned for different aspects of their work. Up in Charlton, it's William Morton. In Spencer, it's Elias Howe. And in Oxford, we can look at Clara Barton. And here in Southbridge, we have Elias Snitzer. And I think it's just a wonderful thing that our towns have this rich heritage and a rich tradition of producing great men. And I think it's important that we recognize them, men and women, that we recognize them, because, as Senator Moore said, it provides future generations the ideas, the thoughts. If we look, AO may no longer be here, but we look at what spun off from AO. Companies like Incom, Carl Storrs is up in Charlton, SCHOTT. All of these companies in some way, shape, or form had at least some tentacles that came back here and came back to Mr. Snitzer. So it's a great opportunity for us to remember that heritage and try to pass that along to younger generations so that they can get inspired from it. The gentleman from the IEEE talked about the things that have been inspired from it, the DVDs and all the different technologies that come about and the way that expands throughout the world. So I want to congratulate them. I want to congratulate the Snitzer family who's here. And this is a great opportunity for us to celebrate this, and a great day for the Snitzer family in the town of Southbridge. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Southbridge Town Manager Chris Park.
Thank you, folks. It's my honor and privilege to be here this afternoon to represent not only the administration of the town, but also the town council. It's nice. I've been in this community now for about 5 years. When I originally came and they had pioneers, the logo on the local sports team is actually an old colonial pioneer. And it's funny that I just think about the spirit of pioneer, and I think about, well, it really wasn't necessarily just that colonial figure on our logo that makes a difference. What really makes a difference in the history of this community is, I believe, really the eyeglass industry. And I appreciate the efforts of the Swyaki sisters to do the sculpture behind me. But I think that's not where the story starts or ends. It's probably where it starts, but then it continues on. And just what a nice legacy that the eyeglass industry, that Southbridge was a leader with the AO in the eyeglass industry in the world. And then to not only have just the eyeglass industry, but to actually be able to transition and get into fiber optics, I think is just a great legacy. And it is interesting because as manager, I see that legacy. I see United Lens, I see SCHOTT, and companies that are here that I think came here because of the opportunity that AO initially presented. And just what a great tribute to continue that legacy in the Snitzer family and their dedication of their father to work on progressing the fiber optic industry even further. So I appreciate the IEEE for coming out today to recognize this day. I think it's a great day for the town of Southbridge and certainly for the Snitzer family. And one other person I do want to recognize, because in the time that I've been here, I've noticed that there's sometimes a negative tinge to the town of Southbridge, and there's few people that try to find a way forward to emphasize and accentuate the positives. And I appreciate so much the efforts of Dick Whitney, because in the time that I've been here, he has been one person that has continually sought to find the excellence in this community, not only to find it, but to highlight it and show the larger community. So Dick, thank you so much for your efforts. And thank you, folks.
Okay, we're now going to get a look at this this plaque, and I'd like to invite the family to join me up here with this. Come on, there's more, I think. So, daughter Helen has been working with us on the preparation for this. I'd like to ask you if you would please introduce the rest of your family.
This is my brother Peter Snitzer, my sister Sandy Tristano, and my sister Barbara Cummins, who have come up from Cleveland, Chicago, and Virginia to be here today.
And we're absolutely delighted to have such a good, strong family representation. I want to read to you what it says on the plaque, then Helen and I will lift off the cover. It says, in 1961, Elias Snitzer and colleagues constructed and operated the world's first optical fiber laser in the former American Optical complex at 14 Mechanic Street. 3 years later, this team demonstrated the first optical fiber amplifier. Fiber lasers that can cut and weld steel have since become powerful industrial tools, and fiber amplifiers routinely boost signals in the global optical fiber network, allowing messages to cross oceans and continents without interruption. Okay, so we'll just grab it here. You ready? Here we go. Thank you very much. And now I think we go back to Dick.
The next to speak is really, I believe, the world authority, I could be wrong, but I think he is, on the historical development of fiber optics, and he's a wealth of knowledge. He also, through the whole process, through winter, spring, summer, until now, has helped guide myself and the IEEE on some of the technical areas and historical aspects. And I do want to mention that Wil Hicks, who's here, will shortly be honored. We have a presentation for him, if he can come up front, because he's another contributor. The specific contribution for the IEEE was very specific, but Wil Hicks is another person that Jeff can, first of all, talk a little bit about fiber optics, and then we have a little presentation for Wil. Jeff.
Thank you very much, Dick, and thanks for coming. American Optical was the first company in the United States, and I'm pretty sure the first company in the world to actually start working on trying to develop fiber optics as a commercial technology. It had been, earlier experiments had been done in university research laboratories. There was a guy in Denmark who was more or less working in his garage. There were a number of people working in university laboratories, but this is the first place that actually tried to start, the first company that said, hey, there's a business here, there's something that we can make that people can use, it's more than just an experiment. And this is where, some of a lot of the technological foundation of this industry was laid. They were the first U.S. company. They did fundamental work on some of the technology that's necessary to keep light in the fiber, for example, applying a cladding glass outside it. They developed new concepts, and Wil Hicks, who I'll talk about in a minute, was instrumental in some of those new concepts of making special type of optical devices with fibers that you couldn't make lenses with. And they also developed technology for medical imaging, for things like gastroscopes and endoscopes that came to be used. American Optical was the first place to observe single-mode transmission in an optical fiber, which is what is used all through the world's telecommunications networks today. This is a foundation point for the modern fiber optics industry, which is an industry somewhere in the billions. Billions and billions, as Carl Sagan apparently never actually said. But I've lost count of how many $billion, several $billion industry, perhaps more. So it's really been a impressive technology. It's done a lot of work, and it's used everywhere from the fiber laser, and part of what Elias Snitzer did here, because it is a fiber laser, he combined laser technology with fiber technology and made what turned out to be an exceptionally good type of laser, which is why there's a company down the road in Oxford, IPG Photonics, that's a big industry in this area now, as well as some of the more direct spin-offs of American Optical. Now I also want to invite Wil Hicks to come up.
Will, would you be able? You want to hand this to him?
Okay.
And this is what it says. There's a box for it afterwards.
Okay. No, you're on your own feet, Will, and that's good, and that's the way you should be. And this is from IEEE in honor of Wil Hicks, who began his long career of fiber optic invention at American Optical in Southbridge, including in his groundbreaking achievements in this field was the first fused fiber bundles that are used for medical imaging and fiber optic bundles, and the first drawing of single mode fibers. And I want to congratulate you very much, Will, on behalf of IEEE. I have a box for this here, and I also want to say a few words about Will. So, shall I give you one of you? Okay. Will came here in 1954. Brian O'Brien gave him 2 optical fibers and said, go make some of these and figure out how to make them into bundles so that we can transmit images through them, or make image scramblers for the CIA. That was the real story, but the first story was the medical imaging is where what ultimately worked. Will spent 3 or 4 years here working intensely on this, succeeded in demonstrating this technology. When American Optical Management wasn't interested in commercializing, he went off and started his own company to do it. And he built fiber image bundle technology. He built a company called Mosaic Fabrications that became Galileo Electro-Optics. He started a number of other companies. And later on, he emerged as a visionary because Will saw the tremendous potential for transmitting tons and tons of information, billions and billions of bits through optical fiber, through a tiny single mode core of an optical fiber. He realized this was the future of fiber optics, and he went out and started a company to do that. And he was one of the visionaries who led the field into providing the backbone of the global information highway, superhighway technology, the internet, that lets us reach all over the world today and would communicate with the rest of the world in ways most of us never thought would be possible. Thank you, Will. Okay.
Let's see. Where's the...
I do also want to thank Councilor Denise Clements, who's here. She rightly pointed out, I was thinking, I need scissors for ribbon cutting. She says, you don't need scissors, you want to unveil it. So, you know, and also she helped me set up the whole outdoor event here, so I want to thank Councilor Clements. Thank you. And finally, Rich Linke, Director of IEEE, has a few words, and please all come back through the doors of the main plant.
First, I want to thank Dick Whitney for the work that he did. We worked on this for over a year. It was a delight to be able to pull together. Helen Parrott, thank you, and the whole Snitzer family. They've all helped us out, and we want to invite everyone to go across the street right through the main door. The main door is rarely unlocked, but this is an opportunity to go through and into there we have some refreshments, and then we'll have some talks giving a little more information about the contribution that Eli made. And don't worry, they won't be highly technical talks, they're going to be more historical. So thank you to everyone, and please come and join us. And don't forget
one other thing.
one more announcement. Okay.
I'm just being told.
Yeah, just a quick one. I have been in communication with Helen, Eli's daughter, and I mentioned we had a picture of Eli in our building. And it turns out a different organization, the SPIE, recognized the leaders and movers and shakers in the laser industry over the last 50 years. And Eli's photo has been in our building amongst others. So I had a special copy made for you.
Excellent.
Okay, and I'd like to present it to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.